They were just infants, some only days old, their cries echoing briefly within the walls of a Copenhagen apartment before being permanently silenced. Their tiny bodies were burned to ash in a masonry heater, their fragile bones crumbling to dust. Here in Vesterbro, one of Copenhagen's crowded working-class districts, as many as 25 babies have disappeared into Dagmar Overbye's apartment since 1913. These infants, born to desperate unwed mothers, were handed over with payment and tearful goodbyes to a woman who promised them better lives with loving families. Instead, moments after their mothers departed, many drew their final breaths at the hands of a killer whose work continues as we speak. The horror unfolds behind those weathered brick walls, while mothers receive letters describing their children's fictional happy lives in affluent homes or countryside manors. If you value these stories that shine light into society's darkest corners, don't forget to subscribe. It helps us continue uncovering these hidden tragedies that affect our most vulnerable. Each subscription supports our work, bringing these urgent matters to public attention. Let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. Your voice helps spread awareness about these ongoing atrocities. Now, back to the story. Dagmar Johanna Amalie Overbye was born in 1887 in the rural village of Asendrup, coming of age in a Denmark transformed by rapid industrialization. Her childhood appears unremarkable to those who know her, though whispers suggest abuse marked her early years. In 1912, at age 25, Dagmar herself became an unwed mother, giving birth to a daughter who reportedly died under mysterious circumstances. In these times, when infant mortality claims nearly 20% of newborns, few questions arise when a baby doesn't survive. By 1915, Dagmar relocated to Copenhagen, joining thousands of rural migrants seeking better fortunes. The densely packed Vesterbro district, with its narrow streets and overcrowded tenements, offers perfect anonymity. In these shadowy corridors, Dagmar establishes what appears to be a compassionate service, an unofficial adoption agency for unwed mothers seeking to place their illegitimate children with good families. Her newspaper advertisements promise loving homes for unwanted infants, all for approximately 200 kroner, equivalent to a year's wages for many domestic servants. For desperate young women who face dismissal from service positions and permanent disgrace if discovered with a child born out of wedlock, Dagmar Overbye appears as salvation incarnate. The transaction unfolds with painful simplicity in her modest apartment on Enghavevej. A young mother, often still weak from childbirth, arrives carrying her infant and life savings. She surrenders both, accepting Dagmar's promises to place the child with a respectable family. With reassurances still hanging in the air, the mother departs, believing she's secured a better future for her child than she could provide herself. What she cannot know is that immediately after these tearful exchanges, many of these babies draw their final breaths. Dagmar's methods vary, sometimes strangulation with her bare hands, sometimes drowning in a wash basin, but most frequently, she places the living infants directly into her masonry heater, watching as flames consume their tiny bodies until only ash and fragmented bone remain. As we uncover these ongoing horrors happening right now in our city, I must pause and ask, how does knowing this changes how you see the world around you? These children's cries go unheard while we go about our daily lives, perhaps passing their killer on the street without knowing. Share your thoughts below with, "This reality makes me feel." Let others know they're not alone in processing these difficult truths. Which part of this revelation strikes you most deeply? I read every comment. For 5 years now, Dagmar has operated her gruesome business without arousing suspicion. Neighbors occasionally hear infant cries from her apartment, but the sounds quickly cease. Some notice strange odors, which Dagmar explains away as cooking mishaps. In a neighborhood where privacy is valued and interference in others' business discouraged, these momentary concerns are quickly forgotten. The masonry heater that serves as both murder weapon and crematorium operates year-round, even during summer months when such heating is unnecessary. No one questions the smoke that sometimes billows from her chimney at odd hours. The desperate mothers write letters to Dagmar asking about their children. She maintains elaborate fictions about the children's new lives, sometimes describing fictitious adoptive families with substantial means, other times claiming the infants have been placed in rural areas with healthy country air. Some mothers send small gifts or money intended for their children, which Dagmar pockets while maintaining her deception. Her bank balance grows steadily, far exceeding what a woman in her position should earn, yet raises no eyebrows at the local bank, where tellers know not to question a customer's good fortune. The pattern continues uninterrupted until just this month, July 1920, when a young domestic servant named Caroline Argeson makes a decision that might expose everything. Having given birth to an illegitimate daughter and fearing the social and economic consequences, she places a classified advertisement seeking adoption. Dagmar, seeing another opportunity, responds and takes both Argeson's baby and her payment. But unlike previous mothers who accept their children's absence as the price of their own survival, Caroline experiences immediate regret. The following day, she returns to Dagmar's apartment, demanding to see her child or at least know where she has been placed. Dagmar's response, that she can't recall which family received the infant, strikes Caroline as implausible. This single inconsistency, this momentary failure in Dagmar's usual careful deception, prompts Caroline to report her suspicions to local police. Just days ago, on August 3rd, officers arrived at the apartment on Overbye. Their initial search discovered baby clothes matching the description Caroline provided. Deeper investigation revealed the horrific truth hidden in the cold ashes of the masonry heater, tiny bone fragments and a partial infant skull. The evidence hidden for so long has finally come to light. Many respectable citizens refuse to believe such horrors could occur in modern Copenhagen, despite the physical evidence. Have you noticed how often uncomfortable truths get dismissed while comfortable illusions are maintained? Comment: I see this truth below if you're committed to facing reality honestly, no matter how disturbing. Your voice matters in bringing these crimes to justice. When confronted with this evidence, Dagmar initially denies everything. She claims the remains belong to small animals she burned after finding them dead. As investigators uncover more evidence, including additional bone fragments throughout the property, her story changes. Finally, after 48 hours of questioning, she confesses to murdering 16 children placed in her care over the past 4 years. Her confession is delivered with clinical detachment, showing a disturbing lack of emotion or remorse, as she describes strangling infants and burning their bodies. The case quickly expands beyond one woman's crimes to expose a systemic failure in our society. We live in a world that provides virtually no protection for children born outside marriage, who are categorized as illegitimate and often denied the most basic rights and services. Institutional indifference extends to official registrars who fail to follow up when birth certificates are issued, but no subsequent records of these children appear in school or health registries. Religious institutions, which might provide support, instead contribute to the stigmatization of unwed mothers, effectively creating the desperate circumstances that Dagmar exploits. As Dagmar's trial begins, police investigators believe the actual number of victims likely exceeds 25. Following her arrest, over 180 inquiries have flooded in from mothers who surrendered children to Dagmar's care, though many of these cases cannot be definitively linked to her. Dagmar's court-appointed attorney attempts to build a defense around her own alleged childhood abuse and the societal conditions that created demand for her services. The stratified class system, which allows wealthy men to escape responsibility for pregnancies while serving women bear the entire burden, has become a central theme of public discourse surrounding the trial. This story unfolding right before our eyes forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our society. If you seek the unvarnished reality behind the comfortable facade, consider joining our community of truth seekers. Subscribe to walk these revealing paths with us as we illuminate the shadows where polite society fears to look. Your support allows us to continue bringing these urgent matters to light. The trial has lasted 42 days, with testimony from 71 witnesses, including mothers who surrendered their children, neighbors, police officers, and medical experts. Today, March 3, 1921, the verdict was delivered. Dagmar Overbye found guilty of 9 murders, the maximum number that could be proven definitively through physical evidence and witness testimony. The judge sentenced her to death by beheading, making her the first woman to receive a death sentence in Denmark since 1861. Those present in the courtroom report that Dagmar showed no visible emotion upon hearing the sentence, maintaining the same detached demeanor she displayed throughout the proceedings. The sentence, however, may never be carried out. There are rumors that King Christian X believes an enlightened modern Denmark should not execute women and may commute the sentence to life imprisonment. For now, Dagmar waits in a cell, reportedly showing no remorse or emotional reaction to her circumstances. She performs assigned tasks without complaint, but engages minimally with staff or other prisoners who refuse to associate with her due to the nature of her crimes. While Dagmar awaits her fate, her case has catalyzed significant social change. Lawmakers have begun drafting comprehensive childcare reform in direct response to the horrific revelations of the Overbye case. The proposed children's law would establish state responsibility for all children, regardless of birth circumstances, and create a system of supervised foster care with regular inspections. The law would eliminate the designation of illegitimacy from official documents and establish financial support for single mothers, fundamentally changing the circumstances that allowed Dagmar's crimes to continue undetected for so many years. We see the evidence before our very eyes: the bone fragments, the testimony of witnesses, the confession of the killer herself. Yet some still struggle to accept that such atrocities could happen in our modern, enlightened society. These victims' stories demand to be heard, their suffering acknowledged, their lives valued. As we process this together, I'm curious. What emotions are surfacing for you right now? Anger at the perpetrator, sorrow for the victims, perhaps a complex mixture of both? Comment below with "I'm feeling," and know that whatever you're experiencing is valid. This reality is heavy, and we carry it together as a community. I'll be responding personally to your thoughts. The question haunts everyone following this case. Why didn't she simply take the money and actually place the children for adoption? The financial motivation explains accepting payment from desperate mothers, but not the subsequent murders. Observers at the trial note that Dagmar displays characteristics that seem inhuman, a profound lack of empathy and absence of remorse. She watches the proceedings with cold detachment, as though the crimes being described were committed by someone else entirely. As the case concludes, we're left with the most disturbing revelation emerging from the final days of Dagmar's trial. Examination of bone fragments recovered from her apartment identified remains consistent with an infant approximately 6 months of age, significantly older than her typical victims who were surrendered shortly after birth. When confronted with this evidence, Dagmar finally acknowledged what investigators had suspected but couldn't prove. Among her victims was her own child, born in 1912. Court observers record her sole moment of visible emotion occurring when she admitted this particular murder, though witnesses describe it not as remorse but as apparent irritation at being forced to address the subject. This admission transforms public perception of the case from one of mercenary opportunism to something more pathologically disturbing. What separates this case from other crimes is not just its horror, but how it functions as a mirror reflecting broader societal failures happening right now. The mothers who surrendered their infants to Dagmar are themselves victims of systems that offer them no viable alternatives. A single woman simply cannot earn enough to support herself and a child. Obstetric care is denied to unmarried women in many institutions, forcing dangerous home births. Religious charities often require moral reformation and public penance from unwed mothers before offering assistance, effectively publicizing their fallen status and destroying their reputational and economic prospects. As we witness these events unfolding, we're left with the most profound question: how can this happen in a society that considers itself civilized and progressive? The answer lies not in the pathology of one woman, but in our collective willingness to designate certain lives as less valuable than others. The children who died in that Vesterbro apartment were already considered disposable by the society that created the conditions for their deaths. Their legacy must live on not just in changed laws, but in the fundamental ethical question they force us to confront. Whose lives do we still consider expendable today? What systems might future generations judge us for maintaining that create preventable suffering? These questions confront us now as we walk the same streets where these horrors occurred. What other horrors exist right now, hidden in plain sight? What other injustices continue because we choose not to see them? Subscribe to join us as we continue revealing these hidden realities that comfortable society prefers to ignore. Your subscription fuels our ongoing investigation into the shadows behind respectable facades, helping protect the most vulnerable among us from exploitation and harm.